So you promote a mental health awareness, addictions recovery through storytelling and through online music performances and wellness advocacy. So talk to me first and foremost about your own story and sort of what inspired you and drove you to launch this.
So if I can just start back when I was a childhood, I had layers of trauma, which included being abandoned, abducted and returned, abused in different foster care homes, and just through step parents. All of this trauma led me to also, sorry, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So it all led me to surviving suicide and homelessness. Addicted to many different drugs. And through this process, I was arrested 4 times. And each time I was incarcerated, I got that help. But the problem is every time I got released from incarceration, it was kind of like, here's your backpack, good luck. And it was a vicious cycle, waking up from couch to couch. And just, there was a point where, a part of my incarceration was to go to rehab. So I went to rehab. I came out, and part of that recovery, I finished high school. Then I went to college to be a jail guard. It led me to a success of working with children. I worked at a group home for 15 years with the same agency. And now I'm in the school board as a child and youth worker, educational assistant for the last 8 years. And, a part of my story is expressing to people that life is like a Ferris wheel. And I like to explain it like this because we can be really high and then we can be really low. So when we're at our lows, it's what do we do with those lows? And I still, that whole promotion of self-care, self-love, reading positive books, taking that time to yourself, if it's picking up a guitar, or if it's painting with your fingers, or if it's painting with, whatever you got around the house. Just kind of tapping into artistic pieces. And I find that has always been a huge outlet for me. When COVID first happened, for the last 3 years, I've been out in the community doing music events and promoting artists and musicians and, running CD release parties and all that fun stuff. But when COVID happened, everything kind of just shut down. And I was like, well, how am I going to continue this community and resource support? So in March of 2020, I reached out to a bunch of different musicians asking them if they wanted to go live stream with me. And since March, I've interviewed over 300 musicians around the world. So much is like out in Germany, India, Australia. So it's been really, really awesome. I did a 60-day series where I did music interviews every day for 60 days. And there was sometimes in a weekend, I had 22 musicians perform in a weekend, online streaming. So yeah, it's been really awesome. And just asking people to have those organic conversations and checking in with them and how's everybody doing?
So, I mean, listening to your story and reading it online as well, I'm in awe of all that you've been through, but then all that you've achieved as a result. And so, these interviews are to inspire others, to get inside the heads of those who, yes, have faced obstacles and hurdles in their lives, some that we can't even fathom, but somehow has found a way to pivot that experience and use it as empathy and power to help others. Tell me, was there a moment for you where you maybe had an out-of-body experience where you said, no, this is not who I am. I'm going to be bigger than this. I'm going to help others because of what I went through. Was there a moment when you can look back and say that's when it all happened for you, or was it a work in progress?
I think everything's a work in progress for sure. Even every day, me giving my kind reminders to other people, I need to take that and give it back to myself as well. But when I look back at when I was 7 years old, there was a social worker of mine. And, from being traumatized, I was mute for a while. And this social worker ended up being my best friend. She became kind of like a mother role model. And she was the maid of honor in my wedding. So, I just think that I know there's professionalism and there's personal, but honestly, if we can help somebody, no matter what label or profession in any way, it's that kindness. We don't have to stop and go, okay, well, due to profession, I can't help this person or I can't hug this person. Well, not right now, but I used to create these events where I would hug people downtown Hamilton for 12 hours. And, I got a group of us. It was a hugging crew, and we would literally just go hug people from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night in really rough neighborhoods, and just embrace that kindness. So to pass that kindness on to somebody, and then to receive it back is amazing.
You talk about when you first started, you were handing out brochures and, trying to get people engaged in cafes, and sometimes you sat there alone. Sometimes no one showed up. Sometimes it was a handful of people. How, when you're going through that, when you're starting something like this, because you need it as much as the people who are attending, how do you keep motivated and keep going?
There's these moments where if I take a step back, I call it the 3 R's, the refocus, reflect, and to recharge. And I take those 3 R's most times when I want to sit back and take a little bit of a break. There's always something that pulls me back into community. There's always somebody, embracing the arts that I do, or anything like that. So even when I do try to take a break, there's something that inspires me to do more. And one of those things were the album release that we did back in 2018. There was a charity album I wanted to give back to a youth center, and having those 14 different musicians lend me a song so that we can raise funds for youth. I wish I had those supports when I was younger. So yeah, just giving back, and being okay with receiving things back as well, right? There's people that give, and when people give back to you, it's being okay to receive that as well.
Mm-hmm. You're very honest about the things that you've gone through, and I think that's the power in storytelling, is when you're willing to be vulnerable and authentic. And you know what, yes, I went through a lot, and maybe some of it I was responsible for. You talk about how you were a bully in school, and I think it's so powerful that you admit to that and then say you searched those people out and you tried to make amends or apologize and say, look, it wasn't you, it was me. What can we learn from that through you when dealing with cyberbullying and bullying? It's huge right now, especially going through the pandemic, and with, kids online using social media. It's so much easier to be a bully. What can we learn from the experiences that you went through?
So I think there's two things here, and I am on a committee with Voices Against Bullying, their Facebook group, and we gather. And one of the things I brought to the table was that myself as a bully back then, I was going through my own things and taking it out on other people. I would get upset when I saw, a family dropping off a kid and mom and dad hugging the child. And, I would be in grade 2, grade 3 being sad because I never had that. And if I did, it was very limited. And I think just the picture nowadays, my question to the community or to anybody out there is, where's the resources for the bully? And I know it's, at such a young age, I didn't even know in grade 2, grade 3 that I was a bully. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was. And the reason why I was doing that, or, I would just even go into somebody's lunch bag and take their lunch, and then they would like open their lunch and go, well, what is this? And I would go smirk at them, and, but the kids knew that if they said anything, I would like run into a puddle and splash them. And I was trying to get negative attention, and being so young, this is 35 years ago. So it's like, well, back then, how do you navigate that, or how do you create a resource? So to this day, there's still not a resource for the bully. Why is the bully doing this? And, and I think even just coming up with a different name, not the bully, it's the individual struggling, and how can we help that individual?
It's very powerful. Tell me what it was like for you to reach out and say, look, I did this to you and I'm so sorry.
And I don't know if you remember MySpace or Facebook when they first came out. I thought it was super cool that, at first I would see these individuals on Facebook, and I would search their names, and there was points where individuals would be like, oh my gosh, I am so thankful that you sent this message. And there would be other people that would just block me and didn't want anything to do with me. So that was part of the process of asking for forgiveness.
You're right, though, in questioning, why aren't we looking at what's happening with the bully, for lack of a better term, and even hearing what you're saying right now, for anyone out there who was bullied through school, it helps to hear, what, it wasn't me. That person was going through something, and that's how they were reacting to, and I just happened to be in that person's environment at that time. I think we do carry these burdens with us right into adulthood, right? So it's nice that you reached out and that you're doing so through your organization to say it was something that that person is going through. It wasn't you.
Yeah, and I mean I work in the school, so I work like I said, I worked in the group home, so it doesn't just happen in the schools, it happens in the workplaces, it happens, and I was doing some bullying coaching with somebody else because I had somebody at work bullying me. So it's not that it just stops at a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Bullying happens in many places. And I think that that individual that's a bully, it's why am I treating other people
Mm.
this way? And what can I do to help myself so that I'm not putting my burdens on other people? I need to take care of my layers of trauma or whatever it is in your life, right?
So true. And speaking of which, I'd love to talk about the peer-to-peer support that you're offering through your Facebook and your Instagram pages. How does that work?
Most times I'll post something and I'll check in with people. How are you doing between 1 and 10? I'll do that. I'll go on different podcasts. Other people can be a part of those podcasts and ask questions. They can reach out at any time. Before COVID, I would meet people in cafes one-to-one, even if it's a bit of coaching on how I started Tria Stars and what to do with those connections and contacts. So peer-to-peer, I kind of blended in as like a life coach. I'm not certified in any way. It's defined as life experience. So a part of that peer support is trying to embrace any kind of resource that I have, if it's music, arts, conversations, extending that even international resources, online tech support, if it's messaging, other resources that I know of, instead of somebody waiting 3 months to get into a shelter, is there any location anywhere for this individual? So people reach out to me in kind of different avenues, and the peer-to-peer in person is definitely different because we can't meet up. But anything I can do online to help or any kind of resources.
You also use journaling as a tool. I really love that. I love what you're doing with your Facebook page. Tell me about that.
So again, back before COVID happened, I was out in cafes. I would hand out journals to people. I'd prompt them what to write. We would introduce ourselves, promote ourselves if we were an artist, musician, or a maker of any sort, or yoga instructor. And then we would write for a little bit while there's instrumental music going on, and then we would all share what we wrote about. And sometimes it would last up to about 3 hours. So people have a lot to say, and I think that pen and paper, it's definitely gets our mind going, because it's it's like posting something on Facebook. Once you post that, it's there, but with the journal, it's your own kind of safe haven.
Mhm. Talk to me about the kindness calendar.
Yeah. So I post random resources, and I used to make self-care calendars as a part of the journal workshop. We would write down certain things that we're going to do every day for ourselves or other people. So if it's, I saw that there was the post office. Somebody had put a bunch of Post-its on each person's mailbox. My partner and I, we were in Toronto, and just looking at if there's anybody around us that we could give a $5 gift card to from Tim Hortons. Or it's not even necessarily just giving back and materialistic as well. It's just asking somebody how they're doing and checking in with people, saying, okay, I'm going to take the next hour to go send kind messages to somebody, or send like a bunch of hearts to somebody, right? To receive a heart emoji goes a long way.
Did you see the success that Tree of Stars is experiencing? You've got quite a little family following you there, and you've got so much to offer. I was actually really blown away by all of the content that you have. So did you see this happening, or did you always just see it as a little small grassroots campaign that maybe it'll grow, maybe it won't?
I believe in affirmations. I didn't think that Tria Stars would have been so big, but when we look at the definition of collaboration and community, when you put those two together, it is its own entrepreneur, right?
Mm. Which tells you you're doing the right thing.
I try. I always think of like, I have a friend of mine, she says, you always have the answers. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to answer with false. I'm going to answer with what I've been through or what I know.
So, if you look back at your life and all that you went through to get where you are today, would you change anything?
No, I have no regrets. Everything's a learning. And even just with mistakes, I think that people need to make mistakes in order to learn. Yes, I've been through a lot of trauma, but I really don't think, even with wanting to go to school to be a jail guard or wanting to work with kids with trauma, uh, that makes me feel really good that I'm still alive today, and still take my deep breaths, and wanting to help other people that need that advocacy as well.
And you can find that power in saying, you know what, I have been there. I've been exactly where you are today, and I'm okay.
And there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, there is. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
And aspects of anybody that's struggling, I know that there's that piece of burden, but I don't think that that burden piece should sit for with anybody, and I know it does, but we all need to reach out. We all need some support in some way, and it is there, and it's there internationally. So no matter what profession you are or whatever spot you're in, there is help. And if somebody needs, supports of that or the advocacy piece, I am here to the best of my abilities.